Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are doing something a little distinct today. Usually, you know the drill. We are wading through these massive stacks of white papers or tech reviews, historical analyses, just trying to find the signal in the noise.
Right.
But today, our source material is, well, it's deceptively simple. It's actually just a single image.
It is, but sometimes the smallest packages hold the absolute heaviest items.
Yeah.
This is one of those images that acts almost like a mirror. You look at it and at first you think, oh, nice picture. And then suddenly you're seeing some very uncomfortable things about how you handle your own life.
Exactly. It's a graphic featuring a quote by an author named Ivish Vicky. And I have to say, looking at the layout, it feels like something you just blindly scroll past on social media.
Oh, for sure.
It has that very specific aesthetic, you know the one.
The motivational poster vibe.
Right, exactly. But we are going to actually stop the scroll today. We are going to live inside this image for the next 20 minutes or so.
We are. Because the argument it makes, and make no mistake, it is constructing a very rigorous logical argument here, is a complete takedown of how most of us, and I definitely include myself in this, deal with frustration.
So let's set the scene for the listener. If you're listening to this on your commute, or I don't know, while you're at the gym or doing dishes, I really want you to visualize this.
I hate the picture.
You're looking at a high-definition shot of a cliff edge. It's jagged rock, very textured. And in the background, there's this sweeping, super dramatic sky. It's hard to tell if it's sunrise or sunset, but the light is just blazing. Lots of deep oranges, yellows, and heavy kind of purple bruises of clouds drifting across.
It's very atmospheric. It feels heavy, but also incredibly vast. And in the foreground, sitting right on that dangerous edge, is a silhouette of a person.
Yeah, right on the edge.
They're in a lotus position, meditating, just pure stillness against this massive, chaotic sky.
You've got birds flying in the distance. You've got some tall grass down in the corner. It's the cover of a relaxation album, basically.
Pretty much.
But then, slapped right over this pristine Zen masterpiece is a block of text that is, well, it's kind of a punch in the face.
It really is.
It's about that specific burning feeling when you want something, and the universe just crosses its arms and says no.
That is the universal human experience, isn't it? The denial of desire.
Right. And honestly, my very first reaction to this was, okay, great, another poster telling me to keep calm and carry on. It felt a little trite. But you're the one who flagged this for the deep dive. You think there's way more going on here than just a chill app message.
Much more. I mean, this isn't a platitude. It's an actual emotional roadmap. If you take the time to actually parse the grammar and the logic of the sentences, Ivish Vicky is challenging the physics of anger.
The physics of anger. I like that phrasing.
Thanks. The text makes a claim about the futility of venting that goes against almost everything we're told in pop culture right now. And it ends with this really complex idea about the ethics of blame.
The ethics of blame. Okay, that sounds really heavy for a picture of a sunset.
It is heavy, but it's useful. So our mission today is to deconstruct this roadmap. We need to figure out why this author thinks we're all doing anger entirely wrong and what on earth we're actually supposed to do instead.
Let's get into it then. The text opens with a scenario we all know entirely too well. I'll just read the first part. It says, when you want anything in life and you don't get it, that makes you mad, and you react in anger, which will always bring back pain.
There is so much packed into that opening. It sounds like a simple cause and effect statement at first glance, but look at the chain of events. It's describing a loop, a pain loop, if you will.
Starts with desire. When you want anything.
Right, and notice the scope of that, anything.
Yeah, it doesn't specify.
Exactly. It's not just talking about big life goals like a massive promotion or a marriage or buying a house. It's talking about the traffic light turning green when you're running late. It's talking about the coffee machine actually working when you press the button. It encompasses every single micro desire you have throughout the day. Which is terrifying when you stop to think about how many things we want in a single day.
Thousands. Tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And then comes step 2. You don't get it.
The denial.
The denial. And this is just statistical probability. You simply cannot get everything you want. The world is a completely chaotic place governed by variables you can't control. So steps 1 and 2, wanting and not getting, are just life. They are fundamentally neutral events.
But then comes step 3. That makes you mad.
The emotion. Now, this is really interesting because the text implies a strict causality here. Not getting what you want makes you mad. It actually acknowledges that the anger is a reflex. It's biological.
Like a survival mechanism?
Yes, it's that fight or flight response kicking in just because your will was obstructed by something.
So the source isn't saying, hey, don't ever feel anger.
Exactly. That's a huge misconception with stuff like this. It's acknowledging the feeling is the perfectly natural output of the denial. That makes you mad. It's just a statement of fact. Okay, so far I'm totally with the text. I want the thing, I don't get the thing, I'm mad. That feels super validating. But then we hit the pivot point. Step 4. And you react in anger.
React. That is the operating word right there. The text deliberately distinguishes between feeling the anger that makes you mad and acting on it.
And the conclusion of that sentence is pretty grim. It says, which will always bring back pain.
I really want you to look at that word, always.
It's a total absolute.
It's a very dangerous word to use in any logical argument. Usually if someone says always, you can easily find an exception to poke a hole in it. But the source is doubling down here. It's positing this as a law of nature. If you react in anger, the outcome is guaranteed to be painful.
I have to push back on that a little bit, though, just to play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Sometimes reacting in anger feels absolutely amazing. No, seriously. Like if I'm dealing with a notoriously rude customer service agent and I finally just snap, there's this incredible rush. It feels like power.
It feels like power in the exact second you do it. Absolutely. That's just the adrenaline hitting your system. But what happens 5 minutes later?
I mean, yeah, usually I feel kind of gross about it.
Yeah.
Or I realize I have to apologize. Or I get hung up on and now I have to call back and wait on hold for another full hour.
Exactly. The pain the text is talking about isn't necessarily physical pain, though it definitely can be if you go and punch a wall.
Right.
It's the fallout. It's the regret. It's the sheer elevation of cortisol in your blood that totally ruins your entire afternoon. The text essentially argues that the pain is self-inflicted.
That's the bringing back part, right? Bring back pain. It sounds almost like a boomerang.
That's a perfect image for it. You throw the anger out at the world thinking you're getting rid of it, but the mechanics of the reaction ensure it circles right back and hits you in the back of the head.
So the core argument is the initial situation, not getting what you want, is just a lack. It's a zero. But the reaction is what turns that zero into a negative. It actively creates suffering where there was only really disappointment.
Precisely. It's completely decoupling the event from the suffering. You don't suffer because you didn't get the promotion. You suffer because you spent 3 days snewing in pure rage about it, or because you yelled at your boss and got yourself fired. The reaction is the actual pain generator.
Okay, so we're in the trap. The text has perfectly identified the problem. We are stuck in this endless loop of wanting, not getting, reacting, and hurting. Now, usually, this is the part where a well-meaning friend tells you, hey, just let it all out, vent a little.
Right. Good old steam valve theory.
Exactly. We're taught from a young age that anger is like steam in a boiler. If you don't open the valve and let it hiss out, the whole thing just explodes. But this source takes a really hard left turn on that idea.
It really does. Let's look at the instruction in the second half of the quote. It says, instead, if you don't get what you want for any reason, remind yourself to divert your thought and emotion rather than venting out the frustration.
Divert, not vent. It deliberately sets them up as total opposites.
It does. And this is crucial to understand. In the context of this source, venting is clearly framed as part of the actual problem. It's not a solution at all. It's just another form of reacting in anger.
But wait, if I don't vent, am I not just bottling it all up? Because suppression is also really bad, right? We know that clinically. If I just sit there and seethe silently, that's going to give me an ulcer.
And that right there is exactly why the word choice is so specific. It doesn't say suppress. It doesn't say ignore it or pretend it's not happening. It says divert.
What's the functional difference there? I mean, practically speaking, between diverting and suppressing.
Okay, think of a rushing river. That's your anger. The sheer volume of energy is massive. Suppressing it would be trying to build a giant concrete wall right across the middle of the river. What happens?
The water builds up, the pressure rises, and eventually the wall just completely breaks. You get a massive flood.
Right, that's suppression. It fails. Now, venting, the way this text seems to define it anyway, is just opening the floodgates and letting that water violently smash into whatever happens to be downstream. Your family, your coworkers, your own peace of mind.
So what is diverting in that analogy?
Diverting is digging a canal. You aren't trying to stop the water. You fully acknowledge the water is flowing and it's powerful, but you are actively changing its course. You're guiding that energy somewhere else entirely.
Man, I really like that analogy. It respects the energy of the emotion. It admits, hey, I am absolutely furious right now. The energy exists, but it demands you do something productive with the flow instead of just making a mess.
Exactly. But there's a big catch here. The text says you have to remind yourself to do this.
Yeah, that phrase definitely stuck out to me too. Remind yourself.
Because it implies that diverting is not natural. It is definitely not our default setting as humans. Our default setting is to scream or cry or sulk. Those are basically the factory settings of the human brain when it encounters a denial of something it wants.
So we have to manually override the system.
Yes, it requires a conscious cognitive intervention. You have to catch yourself in that exact split second. You didn't get the thing. The anger is rising up. And right before you open your mouth to react, you have to hit the brakes hard and say, wait, divert.
That sounds incredibly difficult,
Yeah.
especially in the heat of the moment, like when I've just spilled hot coffee all over my open laptop.
Oh, it's the hardest thing in the world. That's exactly why the person in the image is meditating on the edge of a jagged cliff.
Mm.
This isn't just a casual life hack or a tip. It's a strict discipline. It's a serious mental workout.
And the text explicitly says to divert thought and emotion, both of them.
Which covers all the bases perfectly. Thought is the internal narrative, the whole story you tell yourself about why this is so unfair, why the universe is specifically out to get you today. And emotion is the physical sensation, the heat rising in your chest, the clenching of your jaw. You have to actively move both of them.
Okay, so we have the what divert, don't vent, and we have the how remind yourself. But the part of this text that really stopped me in my tracks was the why.
Ah, yes, the philosophical anchor of the whole thing.
Yeah, it actually gives a solid reason for all this mental effort. It says we should divert rather than vent, because the one who receives the outcome is not to be blamed.
This sentence, this is where the text completely moves from standard self-help into deep moral philosophy.
It's a bit of a riddle, isn't it? The one who receives the outcome. Who exactly are we talking about here?
We have to look at the geometry of venting. When you vent, you are usually venting at something
Yeah.
or to someone.
True. If I've had a terrible day at work, I come home and I just dump all that negativity on my partner. Or if I'm stuck in terrible traffic, I'm yelling at the driver in front of me.
And in those moments, your partner or that random other driver, they are the receivers of the outcome. They are the ones catching all the fallout of your anger.
And the text explicitly says they are not to be blamed.
Correct. And let me tell you, this is the really hard pill to swallow. Because in the moment, it feels completely like they are to blame.
Oh, absolutely.
The guy driving slow is the reason I'm mad. My partner asking me a dumb question about dinner is the most annoying thing in the world right now.
Right. My brain is just screaming, you are the entire problem.
But the text argues that is a massive logic error. Let's actually trace it back. What was step one? You want anything and you don't get it.
Okay, yeah.
Let's say you just wanted to get home early. You didn't get that. That's the denial. That is the true source of the pain. The driver in front of you, he's just a variable in the road. He's just existing.
He's not the evil architect of my misery. He's literally just a guy also trying to get home.
Exactly. And if you vent at him, honking your horn, tailgating, screaming out the window, you are actively punishing him for the fact that the universe denied your specific desire. The text argues that he is entirely innocent of your original want.
It's even clearer with the partner example, I think. If I didn't get a big project approved at work, and I come home and snap at my spouse just because the dishes aren't done.
You are transferring the pain. You are taking the bitter outcome of your work disappointment and forcing your completely innocent spouse to receive it. And the text says, that is simply unjust. They are not to be blamed.
Man, when you frame it exactly like that, venting stops looking like harmless self-care and starts looking pretty toxic, honestly.
It frames emotional regulation as a fundamental responsibility to others. It's not just about you feeling better in the moment. It's about not polluting your shared environment with your own personal disappointment.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective. It takes the focus completely off me. Like, I'm hurt, I desperately need to scream, and puts it squarely on the community. I'm hurt, but I have a duty not to hurt them.
It's the core idea of containment. If a nuclear reactor has a meltdown, the absolute first priority is containment. You do not let the radiation leak out. When you don't get what you want, you are essentially having a mini meltdown. The divert instruction is your personal containment protocol.
Containment protocol. I really like that.
Yeah.
It makes me feel like a responsible nuclear engineer instead of just a guy who's incredibly mad about dropping his bagel.
Whatever helps you get through the morning, right?
But let's actually bring this back to the visual for a second. Because Iva Civicki didn't just write this text on a blank napkin. They put it on this very specific, striking background.
The cliff and the dramatic sunset.
We touched on it a bit earlier, but now that we actually understand the underlying logic of diverting, the image makes way more sense.
It really perfectly illustrates the mechanism. Look at the figure again. They are sitting right on a cliff. A cliff is an edge. It's inherently dangerous.
Frustration is an edge.
Exactly. When you are denied something you really, really want, you are suddenly standing on a precipice. You are teetering right on the verge of falling into that reaction loop. You could jump, you could scream, you could easily fall.
But the figure isn't pacing or yelling. They're sitting.
They are completely grounded. They have consciously chosen stability right on the edge of total instability. And even more importantly, look at exactly where they're facing.
They're facing the sunset, the big, wide open sky.
That is the ultimate visual representation of diversion. They aren't looking down at the jagged rock. They aren't staring at their own hands in frustration. They are looking out.
They are focusing their attention on something vast.
Because nature is the ultimate diversion. It's a massive vibe check from the universe. You didn't get the job you wanted. You missed your connecting flight. Okay, that hurts. But look at that sun. It's 1,000,000 times bigger than you, and it's just burning up there in the sky, and it's breathtakingly beautiful.
It really puts the want into perspective. It's incredibly hard to stay totally furious about a minor traffic jam when you are genuinely contemplating the rotation of the actual planet.
Exactly. The image strongly suggests that when you desperately need to divert your chaotic energy, you should divert it towards something much bigger than yourself. Something that reminds you that your specific, localized problem, in the grand scheme of things, is manageable.
And even the font choice plays into this whole vibe. I noticed it right away. It's this flowy, somewhat complex cursive script.
You really can't speed read it.
No, you really can't. You kind of have to squint a little bit. You have to trace the letters with your eyes to get the words.
The medium is the message here. The visual presentation physically forces you to slow down. The text itself acts as a cognitive speed bump. In the actual time it takes you to decipher the words, divert your thought and emotion, you have already successfully delayed your knee-jerk reaction by 3 whole seconds.
And sometimes 3 seconds is literally all you need to stop the explosion from happening.
Exactly. It breaks the dangerous momentum of the anger.
So if we look at this entire package, the text, the underlying logic, the image itself, it's actually a highly practical toolkit. It's not just a poster saying be happy. It's saying here's the exact manual on how you survive disappointment without burning down your own house.
It really is, and I think it's super important to acknowledge that this isn't easy at all. We are talking about actively rewriting deep neural pathways that have been running since we were literal toddlers.
Right, because toddlers are the undisputed kings of the want, don't get, react cycle.
Oh, without a doubt. The tantrum is the purest, most unfiltered form of the pain loop. And what the text is ultimately asking us to do is to finally truly grow up, to catch and stop the tantrum right before it actually starts.
So let's try to summarize the whole Iva Civicki method here for everyone listening, because we've unpacked a lot of dense material.
Sure, let's just break it down into 4 distinct beats.
Okay, beat 1.
Recognition. You have to consciously realize that wanting something and not getting it is the initial trigger. And you have to fully accept the premise that reacting in anger is a trap that will always bring back pain.
Beat 2.
The pause. You have to remind yourself you actively need a mental override switch that violently stops the automatic biological reaction.
Beat 3.
The divert. You consciously choose to divert that massive energy rather than vent it. You are steering the rushing river into a brand new canal.
And finally, beat 4.
The perspective. You remember that the people around you, or just the world at large, are not to be blamed for your personal disappointment. You take full responsibility for your own emotional fallout, so you simply don't hurt others.
It sounds so delightfully simple when you just list it out like that.
Simple on paper, but incredibly, unbelievably hard to execute in real time.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, when I'm 5 minutes late to a meeting and I spill hot coffee all over my clean shirt, I am definitely not thinking about the beautiful golden sunset and the pure innocence of the ceramic coffee cup.
I know, and that's precisely why the text explicitly says remind yourself. It's a daily practice, it's a muscle, it's something you have to do poorly over and over again until it eventually becomes the new default.
And the text says this directly applies to anything in life. That's a really huge, almost intimidating scope.
It is. It frames this not just as a crisis strategy for massive life tragedies, but for literally everything. The slow traffic jam, the mysteriously broken shoelace, the failed long-term relationship. The underlying mechanic is exactly the same. The scale of the want obviously changes, but the severe danger of the reaction is constant.
There's one lingering thing that keeps bugging me about all this, though.
What's that?
The text clearly tells us to divert our thoughts. It tells us explicitly what not to do, don't vent. And the image strongly suggests nature as a good focal point to calm down. But in a highly practical day-to-day sense, where does all that kinetic energy actually go?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah. If I have all this adrenaline flooding my system from being really mad and I don't scream at my bog and I don't punch a decorative pillow, do I just sit there vibrating at my desk?
The source leaves that totally open-ended, and I personally think that's very intentional. Divert implies a new destination, but it stubbornly doesn't map it out for you.
It's like it gives you the keys and the steering wheel, but flat out refuses to tell you the destination address.
Exactly, and that's where you, the listener, have to step up and do the hard work. If you successfully pull your energy away from anger, what is the most productive, healthy thing you can aim it at instead?
I mean, can you divert raw frustration into creativity?
Absolutely, you can. Pure spite is a fantastic, highly efficient motivator for art. Many of the world's great works were born directly out of crushing rejection or denial.
Can you divert it into physical exercise?
Sure, go run it out on the pavement. But the key is to run towards something positive, not just run blindly away from the anger. Use it as fuel.
What about diverting it into actual problem solving? Like, okay, I didn't get this specific thing. How do I strategically maneuver to get the next thing?
That might actually be the highest possible form of diversion. In psychology, they call it sublimation. It's turning raw, destructive emotional energy into highly strategic, useful energy.
But that's the real ultimate challenge here.
It is. The source tells us we absolutely have to move the speeding train to a totally different track to avoid a crash, but it's entirely up to us to physically build that new track.
So as you go about your week and you inevitably hit that awful moment where you want something and the world just looks at you and says, nope, try to think of the cliff.
Yeah.
Try to think of the sunset.
And please remember, the totally innocent person standing next to you isn't the one who slammed the door in your face. Don't ever make them pay for it.
Just divert the current. See where it takes you.
Oh.
Thanks so much for listening to this deep dive.